want to turn to my good friend, Sergey Riabokobylko. Sergey, nice to see you. Looking forward to hearing your story and how you see the region.
Thank you very much, Danny. Appreciate your invitation, first of all, and good morning to everyone connecting to this conversation with Danny and our fellow leaders from this region. Well, a couple of remarks, perhaps. When we were discussing with Danny how to frame the discussion for the webinar today, the two topics that came that we're continuing to think about is which market in the Central Asia for us represents the biggest opportunity and why, and also where do we see the most of the focus or the relevance of the Russian experience, which we have accumulated over 28 years of doing business primarily from Russia across the region of the former Soviet Union. Well, for us, that geography has been Uzbekistan. We started more than 5 years ago when pretty much the transition to a new regime has taken place. We were invited to work on probably the most high-profile project for urban development in Tashkent called Tashkent City Development. And we have, after completing it, basically moved on to other tasks in other cities in Samarkand, Khiva, where we're overseeing the development of hotels, and continued the work on real estate development projects, as well as the regional development initiatives, like the development of the Navai region from the standpoint of investment infrastructure and real estate, of course. So we, as professionals in the urban development, real estate, and investment markets, look at the several components that come into play that make a geography attractive. First of all is the regulatory climate and the sort of the civil code and the basis for recording and executing transactions, security of ownership rights. And in many of these areas, Uzbekistan has been very close to what we've observed in Russia and some of the other former Soviet Union republics. The civil code is very similar, and the basis for the laws governing investment activity is also quite similar, although not as developed as it is in Russia. And that's where I think those that participate today in the development of the Uzbek economy may be considering investment there or expanding their operations there. You will find that this is the place where a pace of change and a focus on what Russia was able to achieve in, let's say, the first 15 years after the start of the new millennium. The aim is really to compress that to 1 or 2 or 3 years of very rapid reform, and then leapfrog the very slow and painstaking development of the capital markets, which took more than 15 years in Russia, to allow for, first of all, to regain a position that a 35 million people economy really should be allowed in this region, and also to create a hub for investment activity for the region, which is what many of our counterparties in Uzbekistan say is their ultimate goal, to sort of become the Singapore of Central Asia, to challenge Kazakhstan, which is now seen as the primary investment destination for foreign investors. So for us, Uzbekistan has been a focus over the last 5 years. Obviously, our participation in the market has accelerated this year with the events in Russia. We have 275 people in the region mostly based in Moscow still, but a growing presence in Tashkent, where we opened an office earlier this year. We have more than 12 people based in Tashkent today, and we're continuing to actively grow and recruit both local and regional talent, which now would prefer to be someplace else than Moscow, especially since September 21st. So when we look at Uzbekistan, our comparison, the market that most closely resembles what we observe in Tashkent is Poland. We sort of look at Uzbekistan as the cotton Poland of Central Asia. And we see that there are many parallels that make it attractive and also help understand exactly the size and the scope of opportunity that presents itself in Uzbekistan. In terms of population, in terms of the demographics, in terms of the size of the capital city of Tashkent, very similar to Warsaw. It gives us a taste of where and how quickly we can actually move to a market that would be much more on the map than it has been over the last 5 or 6 years. So the market has actually been overlooked perhaps by the Russian investors and investors from the Western Europe. It has not been overlooked by the Asian participants and investors. We see the most active players in Uzbekistan as United Arab Emirates, Dubai, of course. Saudi Arabia is by far the biggest investor in Uzbek economy with 13 billion in announced projects. Dubai is, and UAE has about 3 billion. There are big infrastructure, financial infrastructure players like Asian Development Bank, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, Islamic Development Bank, all are active with organized offices and operations and facilities for financing and investment in projects in the country. This is followed by countries like South Korea, China, of course, and Turkey, interestingly, which has a lot of links, cultural, language, historical, to the region, is very active in Uzbekistan, but not as an investor, more as a service provider. There are many Turkish construction companies, as would be expected, and operators present in the market. So we see that this is a market that's actually now becoming much more attractive to the talent from the Russian part of the CIS, and we see Denny mentioned 350 to 500,000 of those that relocated. Our understanding, we saw the Forbes published the data on 700,000 people that left Russia this year, which may be perhaps on the high side of the estimates. Our view is that just in September, Uzbekistan saw between 50 and 100,000 new those that, let's say, moved to the country, and in addition to those that relocated between February and September, which was about 15 to 30,000. So it's a very significant inflow of primarily qualified, talented, experienced people that are considering now how to organize themselves, operate in the country, find logistics support, and as you would probably expect, the real estate prices have gone through the roof. The rental of apartments went up between 20 and 50%. Fitted out offices, pretty much impossible to find, and the rent is increased just this year by about 15 to 20% as well. It is something that we're experiencing firsthand because we've helped, as I mentioned, 12 people to relocate to Tashkent. We've actually organized a relocation policy that helps our folks that can work from other locations than Moscow to continue supporting their clients from the location of their choice. We obviously can provide a facility in Tashkent. It would be interesting to hear Ulf's experience with Schneider Group, how they managed to allow for cross-border movements. But we see that this was a very important element in retaining our best people, helping to maintain integrity of the service to the clients, and also to help develop a market that we believe in as a growth engine over the next 3 to 5 years, as the hockey stick of the economic growth flattens out. I think the opportunities will become much more developed, more like the situation in Kazakhstan that Danny just described. So I think in closing, I would say that the opportunities that we see, primarily looking at the investment and real estate side, is value-added investments in real estate starting from about $5 to $10 million. We see fintech and proptech as absolutely key elements of leapfrogging an economy that for close to 18 years has not developed at a pace with other surrounding regions and countries. Investments in data centers, private education, and healthcare. So these are the elements, all of the economy, all of them relying on real estate, which present today probably the biggest opportunity. And we are very excited to have had the history of engagement with the market to today be able to build on that and work with our clients as well as the investors that are interested in the region to help channel their interest into specific projects that have the highest probability of excellent outcome and good performance.
Sergey, thank you very much indeed. Very, very helpful. And I've got, as normal, I have some questions, but for time reasons, I want to part them towards the end as a courtesy.